Welcome everyone to another episode of The Creative Minds. Joining me here today is Imad Shawa. So, Imad, can you tell us a bit more about who you are and what is it that you do?
Hi, Ida. Thanks for having me.
Of
I'm so
course.
excited to be here. I'm a 41-year-old Jordanian, Palestinian originally,
Mm.
living in Amman for the last decade. And for the last decade almost, I've been running a print-on-demand business, which started off as just a t-shirt company called Mlabbas. And it's been operating in Amman mainly. We used to have a lot of retail stores, walk-in shops, in malls. وهلا we're mainly an online business. We do have a flagship location, which is something we don't want to let go of. It's on Rainbow Street in Amman. It's like this funky part of Amman that tourists love to come to,
Yeah,
and locals love to walk around also. Yeah, it's been my passion project for like a decade, and it's basically a lot of design goes into it. I love design myself. After I got my bachelor's and my master's degree, not in design, I actually went like later in life and got certified as a graphic designer.
mm,
And it's I love expressing myself in doing logos and doing designs for t-shirts. And so for me, my business is something that incorporates that. When I have a business background mostly, I'm pretty much implementing most of the things that I did professionally into my current career.
that's awesome.
Who
So, Imad, can you just tell us a bit more about what you studied, how your journey started? So, did you always want to do design? Was it something that, like, what drove you to that passion itself?
Honestly, Anna, it's funny. I never was good at art growing up, and I could never draw people and objects well at all. I shading for me, like to draw shading,
Yeah,
shadows, like to do general illustrations, to copy things visually. I'm still horrible at it, by the way.
yeah,
I'm not artistically with like my own hands good
yeah,
at all. And I only doodle. I love doodling.
yeah.
And for me, art, growing up in Amman in the 80s and 90s, it wasn't something that I was encouraged, especially since I didn't show any promise in it. But I
Mm,
never pursued any artistic thing
yeah,
ever, to be honest, growing up. Even in college, my college experience, I was so lucky that I had no idea what I wanted to do. I actually got into med school, uh,
so
and
you did
because
high
it was,
school?
from high school, I got into like different medical programs in the UK and Ireland, and I never
Oh,
really uh, I chickened out of them, that whole path,
yeah,
by the end of 12th grade. And I applied to American universities as an undecided major
yeah,
because I really didn't know what I wanted to do.
yeah.
And I ended up going to NYU in New
Uh-huh.
York, but my acceptance was conditional on going to Florence for a year to live in Italy for a year as
Yeah,
part of my freshman year at NYU.
yeah,
At the beginning, it was a bit hesitant, but I went, and it was the best year, yani, of my life. If I were to write a book about
yeah.
1 year of my life, it would be that 1 year in Florence,
Wow.
in Italy. I was 18, turning 19. Never
Yeah,
lived outside, yani, the Arab world.
yeah.
But it was a nice journey, and I was studying arts. I was studying humanities and walking in museums and seeing the art in front of me everywhere. It was like such a blessing to do. And then you go to New York City for 3 years, just thrown in this other place, and I had
Yeah.
never even visited the U.S. before then.
Mm,
So I went to second year college at NYU in
mm.
Manhattan, having never visited America before.
Yeah, yeah,
But it was an amazing experience, just to be in those two insane cities, one for
yeah,
art and one for just New York. For me was like the edge of the pinnacle of human civilization. I would say I used to think of it that way. There's Broadway, there's businesses, there's finance,
yeah.
there's food and restaurants and parks and everywhere for everybody from all over the world. for a 19-year-old coming from the Middle East in the 90s, like it was insane.
Yeah.
It
So,
almost didn't matter what I studied, by the way, in New York.
yeah. What?
You know, I ended up doing finance. The last
Yeah.
2 years of college, I switched to finance because my dad had recommended, like, oh, since you don't know what you're doing,
Yeah.
you know, NYU is top in finance. Just do
Mm.
finance, you know, it'll be useful. So I did it hesitantly, and I didn't
Yeah.
do well in it. I didn't enjoy finance.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just take it, and it was just like something a lost party boy
Yeah.
in Manhattan just did. I was very privileged to have that, obviously.
Mm.
I did a couple of random internships in a
Yeah.
couple of small businesses here
Yeah.
and there in New York, and I got a job in finance, luckily.
Okay.
But what shaped the early part of my career was that in my senior year, 9/11 happened during my senior year, and I saw it live. Basically, I was in Manhattan.
Mm.
It was a very crazy time. Everything things were like crashing, like the dot-com bubble was
Yeah.
happening, and the 9/11, and being Muslim Arab in New York City.
Mm.
I didn't face discrimination because I was just a student, you know, at NYU, like going about my business. But
Mm.
the job market was very rough. I did land a
Mm.
job in finance in
Mm.
Manhattan, which is
Mm.
something that taught me a lot.
Mm.
But then because of 9/11, I think I actually got stuck in Jordan. My H-1 visa wasn't renewing for unknown reasons, and I
Yeah.
got stuck in Jordan on
Yeah.
one of my visits to my parents, and I
Yeah.
ended up losing my job in New York and waiting a few years before I could get back.
Mm.
And so I ended up going from New York City to East Amman, family business, construction, wood material, which my dad's been doing for
Yeah.
like couple of decades,
Yeah.
very different environment. So I was thrown into that in Amman. Instead of
Mm.
finding a job, I went into the family business,
Yeah.
which I also did not enjoy at the time.
Yeah.
So I went from doing finance, at least learning something, living in New York City,
Yeah.
not loving finance. Obviously,
Yeah.
not that many people fall in love with
Yeah.
finance, I guess. So it was a good learning experience to going to Amman for a few years. So my time in Amman in my early 20s was about like, oh, I want to go back and study more and just live abroad. I was like
Yeah.
young, and I had started dating long distance my current wife.
Wow.
You know,
Okay.
yeah, and this year will be our 15th year anniversary. And we
Wow.
met in New York.
Congrats.
We met in New York City actually back in 2003. We met like 18 years ago in New
Oh.
York.
Yeah.
We're still together. We have 3 kids. And yeah, my journey after that, I ended up getting a scholarship to study in London.
Nice.
3 years after that, I applied for the Chevening Scholarship through the British Council, and I got it. And I went in to study something completely out of left field. I studied Islamic law and Sharia studies, basically, at SOAS,
Yeah.
which is people are like, wait, what? You were doing
Yeah.
finance?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Why are you going to do that? I'm an activist at heart. I left that out, basically. And in New York City, I was an activist for Palestinian rights. I would go to all the protests and join a lot of groups as a 20-year-old. And it was really like a learning experience, because growing up in Amman, you're shielded from all the politics unless your parents are like feeding it to you, which usually you know, Arab parents don't like, you
Yeah.
don't go into politics with their
Yeah.
children. It's not a
Yeah.
nice topic. But
Yeah.
for me, I met so many Israelis and Jews and Zionists in New York City, and I was like, oh my God, I know nothing. So it was like also parallel to my studying at NYU and doing finance and all that, was like learning about Palestine.
Mm.
And I became very passionate about the activism. And when I got stuck in Jordan from New York, I got passionate about reform in general of Arab societies. And I realized that, wow, Islam is a big part of the
Mm.
laws, the legislation,
Mm.
the culture, what drives people, what even prevents, what people use as an excuse to not reform their societies.
Mm.
So I actually applied to the British Council for this Chevening scholarship
Mm.
to study Islam and my argument was like, you know what, I want to learn more about the culture that I live in, that I'm from an
Yeah.
academic perspective, so I can actually argue from a legislative point of view
Mm.
to hopefully like يعني, help change يعني, in general,
Mm.
help improve society. So it
Mm.
was kind of like something I wanted to just, it was almost like self-development, brain feeding type of thing.
Mm. Mm.
And I got a full ride. My parents didn't like it. And I said, I told them, sorry, I'm going,
Yeah.
everything's paid for. My flight's paid for. They give you a monthly stipend. Like you can live off just going to school for a year in London.
Yeah.
I got married a month before to my wife Jenna, and we left. We went to London.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I spent a year doing my Islamic studies degree in London,
Yeah.
and then I couldn't get a job in that field that pays for living in London. So I ended up back in finance. I worked at Arab Bank
Yeah.
London
Yeah.
for a few years.
Yeah.
But back in finance, but living
Okay.
in an amazing big city. Like that was
Yeah.
kind of like, we were both hooked on big cities. I mean, Jenna and I lived in New York for a while. We
Mm.
were hooked. We were in love with New York City.
Yeah.
We got to live in London
Yeah.
on a full ride scholarship. And then she ended up doing her master's right after mine, and while I was working at the bank.
Yeah.
And again, I built up my finance experience. Still nothing to do with, by the way, this is like we stayed in London until I was almost 30, and I had
Mm.
no design part in my career, had nothing to do with design at that point, except
Yeah.
doodling, like, on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
ف فيا انا لاني I love numbers, I love crunching numbers since I was a kid.
Yeah.
It was easy for me to work in a bank and just to analyze,
Mm.
financials and look at companies and do that kind of stuff, and it paid better than any artist job or any kind of social work that I
Mm.
was more passionate about. I actually think back all the time when I'm in a regretful mood, which is not advisable. I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I should have gone with my heart and just done real social work and activism and advocacy work. That's still my passion till today,
Mm.
by the way, even
Mm.
more so than design, if you can believe it.
Mm.
And if you let me tie it in with what I'm doing today with Mlabbas. Mlabbas is my print on demand business that I've started in Amman 10 years ago. It started off as a t-shirt designing business.
Mm.
In the early years, I would drop t-shirt designs that were political.
Mm.
It was kind of like I was trying to be active a little bit. We have a lot of Palestine t-shirts, which we do. We raise money for a Palestinian group called Visualizing Palestine, which do infographics. So we print all their stuff. So I always try to infuse the advocacy in my work, but honestly, not enough.
Yeah.
Yani.
Yeah.
Always the financial challenges, especially of being in a small market,
Yeah.
sometimes take over, and you end up being just like focused on profitability.
Mm. Like, why are you so obsessive wanting to do social work that is there to talk about or empower other people or to raise awareness in certain areas that you're interested in?
Well, a very good question. I never asked myself why I love something, why I love this aspect, but it feels so good.
Yeah.
Maybe part of it psychologically, I don't tolerate injustice inside me as much. Meaning when I see injustice, it bothers me more than maybe more than a lot of people who just would rather put all their eggs into, let's say, if you're a very high achiever, you have an amazing mindset. Most people that I see in the Middle East who are like that, who are in the ecosystem of growth and startups and investing, and we both see them everywhere, on LinkedIn, on Clubhouse, on everywhere. Very few are involved with implementing social change and relieving suffering and injustice and political development. Most people will not touch, especially political development, which is kind of the linchpin for a lot of issues, economic, social issues in the Arab world. We're not really involved in those things. I feel like all the good the sharp minds that we have are going into. I wouldn't say that it's a bad thing to go to do for-profit work, for-profit businesses, because at the end of the day, a successful business is one that solves problems. So, so you know, I'm not trying to put anybody down for like finding a problem in the market and creating an amazing solution and making money off of it. That's, you
Yeah.
know, that's great. That's how you know, civilization works, and it's great. I love it, and I'm part of it too. You know, I'm a capitalist also. I'm not a full-on like Marxist socialist, although I do feel like you know, most societies would do better if they were a bit, if they had better social services.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even the US, especially like places like the US, who can do with a lot more than they have today.
And going back a bit to your business, because you kind of talked about how using your business through designing the shirts and then selling them, you're kind of trying to incorporate Palestinians' rights. You're trying to incorporate what you feel is, or bring more awareness to the injustice in the world. So, can you tell me just a bit more about your company, how you started, when you started, how does the whole process go? Are you the one who designs them? Do you have designers? Like, just walk me through the whole process.
Yeah, well, Mlabbas started with a couple of funny T-shirts, you know,
Okay.
that my friends and I just printed many years ago,
Okay.
and we just like had a booth at a local flea market called Jobado Market.
Yeah.
This was back in 2005. Before I started in Mlabbas, actually, I was just still here before my master's degree, and my friends and I just started this funny T-shirt stand.
Yeah.
And for me, I was driving it in terms of design and everything, although it was my first dabbling in design around 2005. Horrible designs, by the way, if you look back. I just wanted, it was just a hobby to create like these vintagey type of shirts. It was more, back in 2005, there was no Arabic pop culture t-shirt companies anywhere that I could find. There was no Jobado, there was nobody around.
Yeah.
And I, growing up in, you know, living in New York City, I used to love going to those thrift stores that had the vintage T-shirts, even the fake vintage stuff that, like at places like Urban Outfitters, they would look like all distressed and worn out, but they would obviously be, you know, pretend. They looked so cool, and they just like, I used to, as a 20-year-old, I used to buy those shirts, and like, just like, you know, it gives you a certain feel. And in Jordan, if you walk around most Arab cities and look at the people in the streets, they're wearing that wear T-shirts. They're wearing T-shirts with American or English lettering on it and graphics that have nothing to do with their culture.
Yeah.
Like, I used to look, I'm like, oh my God, that kid is wearing like an energy, like says energy on it, and the other kid's like wearing Chicago or New York, or you'd look at their back, it says like, you know, just random, you know, American pop culture stuff that they don't like. And I used to ask people, ايش هاي معناتها؟ بقول لي والله ما بعرف, I just got it from the whatever. المحل, it looks cool. So you walk into all these, even the non-thrift stores, even like go to Sofia, to all these clothing stores, or downtown in the Balad, there was nothing Arab about the T-shirts at all. It was all the stuff that gets dumped in from India and China that had American culture on it. People would be wearing like, you know, sports jerseys from American teams they've never heard of. Sometimes that borders on cool vintage, you know, but there was nothing localized. And I had a shirt that says التعليم الخاص on it, which means private education. It had a number 7. I think it's a volleyball shirt that I borrowed from somebody. And it was a nice black T-shirt, and I used to wear out when I used to go out at night with friends. And people were like, oh my God, what is that? That was back in 2004.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, it's in Arabic. They're like, what? Where did you get it? I'm like, it's a high school like team T-shirt. And nobody knew where to get Arabic T-shirts back. Like, we're talking 17 years ago. So that's where the idea came from. Let's do some funny Arabic stuff. And that's how it started. And we made so much money at those flea markets. To rent a table was like 5 or 10 JDs, and we used to sell for 1,000 JDs on each Friday.
Wow.
You know, so we were like, damn, this is a great idea. So I know when I came back from London, from my Arab bank stint in finance, and Jenna and I decided to come live in the Middle East, live in Jordan. I restarted the T-shirt business as a hobby with a kiosk in one of the local shopping malls. As a kiosk, and I hired somebody to just man the booth, and I used to go there as well to man the booth, and just like, wow, this thing, and people really liked it. You know,
Yeah.
I had a kids t-shirt line, women's, men's. It was mainly t-shirts, Arabic t-shirts. People loved it back then. So
So is it just
it
like
grew in,
random words there? Like what kind of wording would you use there?
yeah, like a funny t-shirt, like a random word, like a random a t-shirt that really was successful, like just said mashkalji on it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
mashkalji. إنه خلاص, you know, if a mom is walking by, she's like, oh my God, ibni mashkalji wa zawji
Yeah.
mashkalji. She'd buy both shirts, you know.
Yeah.
It was such an easy sell, and it was
Yeah.
very affordable, you know.
So by the way, anyone listening who does not know, it means like troublemaker. So mashkalji is
Yeah,
a
mashkalji
troublemaker.
means like a troublemaker, you
Yeah.
know, yeah, exactly. And we started, our library grew to hundreds and hundreds and now thousands of these designs, and some of them were controversial.
Yeah.
We actually have a couple. We actually published like the top 10 most controversial t-shirts that we ever published that we got in trouble for.
Yeah.
But
Okay, first of all, how did you get the shirts? And then how did you design them? How did you print them? Is it sustainable? Do you make money out of it? Do people buy it? Like, I want to know more.
yeah, listen, it's first of all, back then we used to get our shirts from Aleppo, Syria.
Okay.
It was just before we started, just before the problems in Syria, the revolution, whatever, the protests, whatever you want to call it, the crackdowns, the Arab Spring hadn't started. So we used to get our shirts from Syria.
Okay.
It wasn't actually an easy process. The quality control was tricky. You know, we didn't really know the market that well. We never visited Syria to like really pick out the best t-shirts. We just had a local guy here that buys from Syria. We just bought from him. We wanted to focus on the design elements. So our t-shirts, it took us several years to really get our t-shirt supply right. And that's something that we pride ourselves on. We built a relationship with a factory that really gives us exactly what we want. This is one of the things that is tricky. You asked me about profitability.
Yeah.
To have a flow, a constant like availability of sizes and colors is very important in a t-shirt business that's retail, because people want, you know, they want the sizes, they want the colors all the time. You can't be out of something for a long time. And when you do bigger orders, you can't say, oh, well, the medium is out of stock this month. You can't, you can't sell if you have a big size, like a big size gap. So that was a huge issue. And Jordan is not a hub like Dubai, where there's 1,000 suppliers. Jordan is very limited in that sense. And the supply was very haphazard and strange and not the same every month. And it was strange. And people didn't like to go into a print on demand t-shirt store. And every couple of months when they buy a t-shirt, it's not the same like sizing or not the same quality. So that was one thing it took us years to fix. And it was one of our core missions to fix. So we kept on shifting different brands of t-shirts until we found the Goldilocks like zone relationship with a factory where they always have the same type of shirt, the same quality. They never run out of fabric. So when you ask for, oh, we have a big gap, some corporate, some B2B customer bought all our medium black t-shirts. We need 100, you know, like in 3 days, done. Amazing payment terms. We don't pay upfront, you know, we don't prepay for any of our shirts anymore. So these are the kinds of.
How do you find them though? How do you find them? Like, where do you look for them?
Honestly, some of them find us after we we make a big splash in the market. People start knocking on your door. But if you're starting out, back when we started, there wasn't much on Google. If you wrote, you know, t-shirt supplier Amman, Jordan 10 years ago, it wouldn't have been helpful that much. Now you can literally Google and find sources and ask around. A lot of word of mouth. You know, there's a lot of uniform shops. If you're starting out, target the businesses that cater for professional wear, المهني, which is places that make, you know, medical scrubs, that make construction clothing, that make polo shirts for corporate events. Those companies will have, usually in the Middle East, they have shitty t-shirt qualities available because they don't focus as much on regular t-shirt, on fashion t-shirts. But they're like kind of like the hook, one of the hooks you can get on if you want to follow a trail of like, okay, this is not that great. Where did they get it from? Oh, this factory here. Okay, let me ask them. Oh, if I don't like their quality, I'll ask them for, you know, you keep asking around. That's one way to do it if Google doesn't you know,
Yeah.
serve you up. But obviously, if you're in a big market like the UAE,
Yeah.
the UAE has brand distributors. Like you don't need to find a factory that just
Yeah.
makes your white label t-shirts. You can go to one of the big distributors and say, oh, I'd like a Hanes t-shirt or a Champions brand t-shirt or a Fruit of
Yeah.
the Loom t-shirt or a Gildan t-shirt. There's so many t-shirt brands around the world that everybody knows. If you're in a big enough market that always has everything, like in America, that's the case. You don't need to worry about that. You get catalogs from these big distributors, and they get them shipped all the time. That part of the business is not an issue when you're in a giant market that has everything.
Okay.
You know, but when you're in a small market, you can't afford to buy these big brand name T-shirts because you need to buy like thousands of them up front, and they take months to arrive. So when you run out of a medium black T-shirt, you're out for 2 months if you suddenly sell out, you know. You have to plan. It's very hard to plan t-shirt sales when you have corporate customers and retail customers and all that kind of stuff.
So now you get them. You get the shirts. Let's say you order the shirts, you found a supplier, you build the good relationships. Now you order them and now you get the shipment, right? Then do you do the printing? Like then what happens after you get the shipment?
Wow. Listen, the world of t-shirt printing is not straightforward. There's 4 methods of t-shirt printing.
Okay.
That are different, that work very differently, that require machines. Some of them you can do it with one person, one little machine. Some of them need a team of 5 people with like 3 big machines. Like the screen printing requires a team. If you want to do it sustainably and correctly, requires a real team with like the 3 different machines that are not cheap to set up, and it's even a health hazard to do that side which we don't screen print, by the way, our own t-shirts. We have an amazing relationship with the screen printing setup that are amazing. They make a profit. We're happy to offload that. So if you're into getting making t-shirts, screen printing is the best way to print bulk. That's great quality, great pricing.
Can you explain what do you mean by screen printing?
Screen printing is a non-digital method of printing on t-shirts. I would say 90% of all t-shirts around the world that are in stores are screen printed. Okay. Screen printing is the most, it's basically, let's say you have a design that's a single color design. Let's say there's the Adidas logo, right? Adidas logo, if you want to print 10,000 Adidas shirts, the cheapest, fastest, most efficient way to do the 10,000 shirts is to screen print them. Okay. You just, the initial setup, there's a couple of steps, which is to create a screen. It's called silk screen. Now it's actually not silk. It used to be silk back in the day. It's like a fabric that you expose to light. Okay. And the exposure allows certain ink droplets to go through in certain parts of the screen. So when you tighten that screen like a drum, like a tablet, and you lay it over a shirt, and you basically swipe ink from the top, and so the ink that seeps through is your screen print. That's called screen printing. Okay. So obviously when you automate that, you can do thousands of shirts a day on one automatic machine. And that is so cheap because the only effort is really setting up the screen the right way, tightening it. Like you have to obviously like the photography process of exposing the screen. Now it's obviously not silk, it's synthetic. But that's screen printing essentially. Okay. There are single color panel like home screen printing where you can do it manually, but you still need a development machine to get your screen sheet like that, to have the design you want. Some designs are 12 colors. You need 12 of these in a row and align the t-shirt to move by the millimeter. So screen printing is an art. It's a beautiful art that's analog. It's not digital really. And it's still the #1 way to print t-shirts in the world.
So don't you just like, for example, find a picture, let's say in Google, or a picture that you drew, and then just like print it on a shirt? That's it. Absolutely.
This is print on demand when you just need 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever you want. Okay. Yes, you go to the digital printing. Digital printing is a whole world. There's digital printing that's literally ink there's like an inkjet that passes over the shirt like a piece of paper, like your desktop printer. We have those machines. Yes, those are great for if you want like just a bunch of shirts, you know, each
Okay.
one different even. They don't have to be all the same.
Yeah.
Screen printing, the problem with screen printing is that they all have to be the same.
Mm.
But screen printing is for huge bulk orders, you know.
Mm.
Digital printing is this new world the last 2 decades that has developed so that you can get just that one-off shirt. You know, it's a bit more expensive to do, but it's you get the one shirt. So yes, that exists, and that's the beauty of our business. We're specialized in that side of the business. We own the digital printers that can do one shirt. So absolutely, customers come in daily, whether it's online or physically, and they have random either drawings that they want us to just take pictures of, or they've scanned some random thing, or they found something online that they want us to edit. And yeah, you can, you know, that's the core of our business. And that wasn't how we started, by the way. We started off with just our own designs for a few years. And I realized 2 years in that, oh my God, half our customers are asking for their own slogans in Arabic and their own images. And that's when the journey, like 2 years into Mlabbas, the journey really took hold of like, okay, what are these machines? So basically I traveled to many, you know, trade shows around the world and learning about them and investing in machines and trying out different machines and teaching my staff. It wasn't something that was around in Jordan 10 years ago, by the way.
Yeah. And so now you get them, and now you kind of serve other people based on their own need. But how are you serving injustice from those shirts? So what are your designs that are helping serve injustice in Palestine, or let's say in other parts of the world, and how are you implementing that? How are you raising awareness? Where are you putting the money into?
And honestly, our biggest campaign that's basically not for profit is the Visualizing Palestine posters. And there's coasters, there's stickers, there's different things. We don't just do t-shirts anymore. We do there's 40 different items outside of the regular t-shirt. And the Visualizing Palestine campaign, we got involved around 5 years ago. And I fell in love with their work because it transcends like the political anxiety of the activism that a lot of youth feel when they feel there's a dead end. So the Visualizing Palestine is this very high quality infographics that are mainly in English, but they've been translated to a dozen languages, I think, Japanese, Arabic, so many different languages. And they're single image infographics that are so well designed. The design element in them, if anybody wants to go and check them out, is so meticulous. Actually, their team is made up of like urban planners and architects and graphic designers, like a bunch of really, really intelligent people, then researchers that pull the data from undisputable data about the injustice that happens in the occupied Palestine, and talks about specifics. Like one of the posters that we love and that has a lot of pediatricians buy it, actually put it in their clinics, is a poster that says, that's basically about how many Palestinian children are born at a checkpoint because they're not letting the mother through, you know. And it shows you like how you know, it's a beautiful, fun looking infographic that's very soft looking, and it has amazing data about like checkpoints, and it shows it in a humanitarian way, you know. So when we had a lot of tourists coming in Amman, now COVID, there's no tourists, but tourists would we have them on display in the store, all these amazing infographics about the separation wall, refugees, prisoners, how they're treated, political prisoners, airstrikes, how much have they killed, like the occupation, the peace talks where they're going nowhere, what's going on, Jerusalem, how it's being attacked by neighborhoods are being expunged from their native Palestinian populations. There's so many posters. And then when a lot of visitors to Amman, to Jordan, they come in and they go through them, and they fall in love with them. They look great, and they're great gifts. And the money from that goes to reinvest in printing more and more and more. So it's just a cycle of awareness. It's not going to a charity for refugees or medical aid or any of that. It just keeps the cycle going.
Okay.
You know, awareness.
And how did COVID affect your business? Because it's mainly because your shop is based in an area where it's usually in a center of like tourism. So how has COVID affected you and your business?
In the short answer is heavily. Very, very big impact, very big, hard impact on us. We were in, despite Jordan's economy not being in a slow recession, I would call it, for the last decade, but we were enjoying the tourism dollars that were coming into Jordan annually. When Ryanair opened up in Amman, to Amman, Rainbow Street was doing really well. 2018, 2019 was an amazing 2 years just from the tourist perspective. You know, economically not so great, but this tourism was doing great. So our main flagship store was doing very well back then. And we kind of I was a bit complacent. I was like, wow, this is a cash cow that we can just rely on, you know, and our push to online sales wasn't as aggressive. Luckily, we already had an online page that was selling, not much, but like online sales before COVID represented under 10% of our sales. Imagine. Now it's around 50.
Wow. Okay.
So from like under 10 to 50%.
Wow.
It's a lot of people, you know, are doing it online, and we're pushing it online. So two things are going on. People our regular customers are doing it online, and we're finding new customers through digital marketing. So COVID has really flipped things around for us in that sense. Where we had to cut so much costs. You know, at some point we were 32 employees at Mlabbas.
Wow.
Today we are 11.
Wow.
And it's been a gradual like shrinking and being more efficient. I'm actually not sad about this journey. COVID brought us down from like 20 to 11, I think, something like that. But it's like it's a battlefield of survival cost-wise. And when things return, I keep hearing this, especially in the market that we're in. Oh, if you survive COVID, you will be rock solid. Next year, you'll be doing amazing. You know, so if anybody survives, a lot of people aren't surviving it. That's where the online is helping us out. You know, and the cost cutting help us survive.
It's amazing. It's good that you're doing well. I hope it stays like this.
I mean, listen. We're not making money, just so you know. We're not. No, we're not profitable at all. We haven't been profitable in a year.
Wow.
Not a single month was profitable in the last 12, 13 months. So we're not doing well in COVID. When you're in our business, means that you're not digging a massive hole. We did dig a big hole last year.
Okay.
That we're filling up slowly. Yes, we are. So just so viewers don't think that we're like no. We're not making a dime. Wow. I'm actually literally going to work every day just to make sure the brand is alive and we're selling. Wow. We're you know, but it's not profitable, no. And for us, we are marching towards profitability, more growth online. Will spell more profitability, but we need to scale more. That's where we're at now. It's like, let's scale the online a bit more and really emerge. And we're actually looking for partnerships, actively looking now for joint venture partnerships, to expand in the Gulf, and franchise agreements. There are some people interested in opening the online hub for this kind of work in like the UAE or Saudi, because it's a physical good at the end of the day. It's not like selling software where you don't need to be anywhere in particular. Physical goods, it's not easy to ship from, let's say, Amman, Jordan, which is not part of the GCC, to the GCC. There's like, it's not cheap to ship, and there's now fees and taxes and different kinds of customs issues getting in there. So opening, we're on the hunt to set up something in the GCC to serve that market from there.
But is that industry sustainable? Like the industry that you're in, and now it's becoming so familiar. And I know in Jordan there's a lot of competition going on now. So is this something that someone should open? And it's also, at the end of the day, it's a shirt, or it's an item that you might need once or twice, or this unique design, you want like, let's say 2 or 3 shirts, but it's not a place where you go and constantly keep buying from it. Like, Oh, you get what I'm trying to say? So
true.
then is this,
It's very niche. It's not
yeah,
a fast moving item as
yeah,
much as you think. It's not like socks or, you know, or food or coffee or anything like
yeah,
that. So no, the profits are not very, the margins aren't that great. I'll tell you, if
okay.
anybody who wants to get in there now, there are certain bright spots in the industry that I will tell you about. I will tell the viewers about. We're now pushing a service for merchandise. This is something that there's a lot of companies that are doing in the US, especially. What does that mean? We're getting a lot of people that have fans to set up their merch stores, on print on demand merch stores. What does that mean? So if you're a gym, if you're a rock band, if you're a restaurant, if you're a college that has an alumni club, almost any entity or artist might have some fans that are interested in them, right? So whether you're a content producer on YouTube, especially those guys are getting a lot of, most of them should have merch stores by now.
Yeah.
And that's where we come in. So we're set up now. We can, within 2 days of getting a request, let's say, Aida, you want your fans to be able to support you by buying a podcast mug for your podcast, the Creative Minds podcast mug, right?
Yeah.
But this is not your thing. You don't want to invest money in this because nobody's really, like, not that many people are going to buy a mug. You're not like a fashion brand. You're not a school that they went to that they want the memorabilia from. You're just a podcast that they enjoy, but some of them might.
Yeah.
You don't want to go into, like, you don't want to put a lot of time and effort into it, and you don't know how to do it anyway.
Yeah.
So what you do is like, hey, Mlabbas, I'd like a merch store. Second day, you get your merch store. What's your logo? We basically place it on whatever items you want. You want it on a T-shirt, on a mug, on a phone cover, on a coaster, on a tote bag, on magnets, on keychains. You can have it. You can have it all. The beauty of print on demand is that your fans now can go in. You can probably put your link in one of your YouTube links, for example, or announce it in the story on your Instagram and say, "Hey guys, support the show and, you know, get yourself a mug." The order comes to your page, and, and it doesn't have Mlabbas on it, by the way. It's white labeled. It's just it's your store. At the end of the day, we just manage it. We manage it A to Z, basically. The payments, the credit card payments come through to our PayPal account that we can send you. You get your cut, we get our cut. Everybody wins. The fans get their thing, and you don't have to do it. You don't have to deal with shipping, with logistics, with printing, with stocking, with making sure it's in stock. All that stuff is taken care of. So that's an area where we're getting into now. That's exciting. Because you don't need to worry about how often do people buy things. No, just grow the base of fan pages. This is one of our several ways forward.
So when you're kind of saying this, it kind of made me think of Redbubble. Have you heard of Redbubble?
Yes.
Yeah. So when you're saying this, I'm like, oh, okay,
yeah. Listen, there's a bunch of things out there. So if you're interested in this business, you need to know what Redbubble is.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of places like Redbubble, like Society6 is like Redbubble.
Yeah.
And then there's things that are slightly different. There's like there's Zazzle.com, and CafePress.com. Those and there's Teespring. Teespring is huge for YouTubers. YouTube is most YouTubers use Teespring as their merch supplier. There's one called Printful that's more integrated with like a Shopify page. If you don't want to go with us, for example, you can get a Shopify page. You can connect it with a Printful app, and you're done.
Yeah.
Their shipping to the Middle East might be more expensive than us.
Yeah.
And it's not as intimate a service as we provide for you if you're in the Middle East, but it's an option,
Okay.
So there are, you need, as if you're going to this business, you need to learn about these companies.
Yeah.
You need to learn about drop shipping. If that's something that interests people, that's a whole other area.
Yeah.
That we actually are in the drop shipping industry. We sit on the supplier side of it. We get drop shippers that say, "Hey, can we just list this T-shirt on their platform, and then when an order comes in, we ship it?" We're like, "Of course, we do that for so many companies right now."
Okay.
So print on demand isn't just the core business, which used to be our only business, where a mom comes in like, "Oh yeah, my kid needs a funny shirt. He loves like whatever this and that," and that's still a good part of our business.
Yeah.
But the other stuff is like the bigger growth areas as
Yeah.
well.
So what about competition in Jordan? There's one big, I forgot the name. There's a big company in Jordan that is doing a lot of like funny shirts.
There are a lot of funny t-shirt like or Arab pop culture t-shirt
Yeah.
companies. There's Jobado, who's
Yeah,
probably the
Jobado,
most famous
yes.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yes, Jobado's around. There's 3 or 4 other ones that are prominent now in Amman.
yeah.
Maybe not as much as Jobado. Jobado's been around for a while, and
Yeah,
they're available in Dubai and many places.
yeah,
But Jobado isn't a print-on-demand business. This is so the listener needs to know that it's a very different business. Jobado does not do print-on-demand. You cannot go to
yeah.
Jobado and tell them, "Hey, I just need this shirt." You
Uh-huh.
know, that here's a design. They don't. That's not part of their
Okay,
business model
okay.
right now. Their business model is they have a bunch of awesome items printed, and you just
Yeah,
pick from. It's a
okay.
brand,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's different, but it overlaps because we both are do the Arab pop culture thing. So Mlabbas, what
Yeah.
my business does, we started off as that only, just having our own
Yes.
line of funny t-shirts,
Yeah,
and that's what brought us the attention.
yeah,
So احنا مثلا, we don't need to go out and get B2B business because people already know us. We're
yeah.
not a back-end company. We're in your face with all these funny t-shirts for many years.
Mm.
We get people all the time coming in and asking for to do business orders because we're known in the market.
Yeah,
So yeah, there's a bunch of. By the way, we see so many t-shirt companies pop up
yeah.
now more than
Now,
ever.
yes,
Now, oh my
yeah.
God! Listen, it's so easy
Seriously,
to get
yeah,
a line of hoodies, a line of t-shirts, to do
yeah,
some really cool designs, to get an
yeah.
Instagram page, a couple of bucks here, you're done.
Yes,
You can make
yeah.
money, by the way,
Literally,
from your
yeah.
home,
Yes,
sending out these hoodies and these t-shirts. You're done. That's it.
yeah.
If you want to take it a level up, you get a few other printing machines to do hard accessories like phone
Mm.
covers, coasters, mugs,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
It's not that expensive at all. So you're right.
yeah,
The level, the barriers to entry to becoming like a t-shirt seller is so low right now.
yeah,
There are a couple of kinks here and there, like how do you process credit card payments? Okay, if you're in the US, easy peasy,
yeah,
Shopify, bank account, done. In the Middle
yeah.
East, it's not that easy. You need to set
Mm.
up. That's another topic of e-commerce in the Middle East. So it depends if this is your thing. You want to take it to the next level. And I'm thinking of even like doing clubhouse rooms, for example, just to support.
Mm.
We did one actually last month that we made a lot of good connections with, just to support people who want to know,
Mm.
wait, how do
Yeah,
you jump from being just an Instagram hoodie t-shirt seller with like a couple of thousand followers to like, no, to a bigger business? What are the
yeah.
ins and outs? Do I have to register a company? Do I not have to? Where can I ship to? What about dealing with
Mm.
shippers?
Yeah,
So it's not a hard market to get into at all,
yeah,
but the growth tech side of the providing stores, for example, is something that almost nobody, like there's maybe 1 or 2 companies in the Middle East that are doing it, that
yeah,
are Middle Eastern companies. Yes, there are the American companies that are doing the like Teespring,
yeah,
but and Printful. But so we're kind of like Teespring, Printful of the Middle East. We're hoping to be that. That's kind
yeah,
of one of our missions right now.
yeah. Amazing. Wow, thank you so much. It's been like an hour or so, but thank you so much for your time. I just want to have one last question. And it is, so what is your definition of success?
Okay. Um, for me, success is more mental. It's not about the goals that you've achieved. It's more about if you've reached a point in your daily life, you
Mm-hmm.
have a routine, a ritual, a series of rituals
Mm-hmm.
that keep you aligned and keep you able to recalibrate yourself when you fall down, you get hit with an issue, with some issues, with problems. If you've gotten to a place where your mindset from the minute you wake up, you have a set of rituals that allow you to face any problem, to really get up from any problem.
Yeah,
uh, that's for me is success. Once you've gotten to that point, and of course not all of us can maintain it, and
yeah,
I go on weeks of like waking up in a slump, and I'm like, oh
yeah,
no, I have to get back on
yeah,
on the wagon. But for
yeah,
me, being able to get back on that wagon and knowing, being conscious of the fact that having these amazing rituals where you clear your head and you journal and you meditate and you eat right and you exercise and you do all these things, the fact and less screen time especially, and like just to give yourself time to really think, not to be in zombie mode. So for
Yeah.
me, being successful is being in that zone. When you're in that zone, you can tackle really anything, to be honest, you
Yeah.
know. So it's being the anti-zombie mode, I like to call it. So when you're
Yeah.
in zombie mode, like if you have had a week of like, you know, maybe you were getting over a cold and you were just in a weird place, you were watching too much Netflix and just eating whatever, and like you're not really focusing, you're just on your phone whenever you're bored, that's zombie mode for me.
Yeah.
And of course we all get into that mode, but when
Yeah.
you get into the zone of like really being able to pull yourself back and be conscious of yourself, and like do the rituals that you know that will get you there, you can tackle any problem. And getting to that, being aware of that zone and getting there, for me is success.
And what do you do to get you back in that zone or state of flow, or not in the
Oof.
zombie
Oh
mode?
my God. Peak state, as Tony Robbins calls it.
Yeah.
Honestly, if I had a straight up answer for you, oof, I'd be in a better place myself. How do you snap back into it, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God. You know, I think sometimes you have to get to a point where you just wake up like, oh my God, wait a minute, what am I doing?
Yeah.
But there is a bridge where you cross from being zombie to being non-zombie. That
Yeah.
is a mystery. I wish I could tell you how.
Yeah.
I've done it many times. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
being inspired by someone in front of you.
Okay.
Sometimes aha moments will get you that kick, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Some people get it from listening to a podcast, for example, like your podcast,
Okay.
which has amazing guests on it. I actually got a few aha moments from listening to some of your episodes. I'm like, wow, you know what? That's amazing. That's amazing
Yeah.
advice, you know,
Yeah.
on health or eating or sleeping or
Yeah.
business. So yeah, feed your mind. I think the more you feed your mind, if you are going to be on your screen when you shouldn't be, in your 13th hour of screen time, try to listen to something that will give you those aha moments. But then again, are they enough? I'm not sure. I wish I had
Yeah.
the answer.
Yeah, that's one question.
Sometimes
Are they
aha
enough?
moments are like, oh yeah, that's awesome. I love how you articulated that point.
Yeah.
Okay, bye. You
Yeah.
just go about
Yeah.
your zombie life.
Yeah.
That's what usually happens to all of us.
Mm.
And one of the things that rescued me is that I actually signed up to these seminars. Like I've done 2 Tony Robbins seminars in the last 3 years, and they've been life-changing, to be honest. And
What
I
about
wasn't
them?
when I
What about them that was life changing? Because everyone talks about how Tony Robbins.
listen, and I was lucky to go before COVID. I went
Okay.
both of them before COVID.
Okay.
So they were life-changing because you get immersed. It's a very immersive
Yes.
experience where you're really worn out, you're worn down, you're broken down, you become very vulnerable. You're writing everything down. You're talking to strangers about your life.
Yeah.
You're going through so many guided meditations.
Yeah.
You're listening to insane stories that you cry over in front of you live. You hug it out. You're connecting with 1,000 people. Like at the end of the day, they just throw at you so many amazing tools, transformative like tools, like, and immersive experiences that something clicks. So for me, the first one I did was so transformative. Like it was a 4-day big event called UPW, Unleash the Power Within.
Yeah.
And oh my God, on day 3, I was crying so much. I was brought into this. One of the guided meditations made you think of like, what would happen if you continued on your bad habits? What would happen to your kids, to your family? What would happen to this and that, your health, your career? And you start bawling because you're in a meditative state and you start imagining things. And everybody in the arena, there was 9,000 people in that arena, 9,000 people, mostly bawling and shouting and screaming. And it breaks you down. The next day I woke up, I'm like, you know what? I'm changing 1, 2, 3. And I stuck to that. Like one of the things I changed 2.5 years ago until today, I cut out, I was much heavier than I am today. I was like 13 kilos heavier than I am now.
Yeah.
And from that one day at UPW, I cut out all dough, yani bread, pasta, pizza, you know, all kind of dough. And I cut out added sugar. And I haven't been back since. It was like I was what's the word, hypnotized. I was almost like reprogrammed. I was reprogrammed. And they didn't tell me to do any of that stuff. They don't tell you to do anything. It's just a general, you know, the guys are talking to 9,000 people, Tony Robbins and his team. They're not talking to you directly. But so you come up with your own solution when you're there. You get moved so much that you're like, oh my God, I can do this. You know, you awaken something in your mind. And not everybody goes through the same experience, obviously. But I was lucky to go through that because it turned my life around. I was clinically depressed when I
Yeah.
had gone, and I got
Yeah.
over that.
So,
Like,
so why
within a few
can't,
months, I was out of depression. I was healthier. I was waking up earlier. I had stopped eating all that crap forever. Not like a diet. Oh, I'm gonna
yeah,
get thin. I'm gonna cut out sugar, and then maybe, you know, on occasion. No, no, no.
yeah,
I'm done. It's drugs. You know, for me, added
yeah,
sugar, it's like drugs. You
yeah.
don't need, your body doesn't want it. It craves it. It feels good, but it doesn't need it.
Mhm, mhm.
So those are the kinds of things that I got from that. And
Yeah,
I advise anybody to just do their session. You know, now it's
yeah,
online now.
yeah, it is. Yeah. So two questions came up in mind. First one is, why did you have to go to a session like that to awaken that part of you where at the end of the day, Tony did not do anything. He just inspired you, but you found the answer to yourself. Why did you need that to find that answer for you instead of you finding
Oof.
it for you?
Wow, I was deep. I was deep in a bad. I was in a bad place when I
Yeah,
went 3 years
yeah,
ago. Yeah, and my wife dragged me to go. Actually, it was her birthday present. We bought ticket. She's like, "This is my birthday present. We're buying 2 tickets. We're going." And we go to the U.S. because her parents live there. We go every
yeah,
summer anyway. So
yeah,
we organized it so that we could go. When we were there, yani. And I was like, oh, "Do I have to go?" And I was so
yeah,
down. I was like, "Whatever." And I don't. Yani, honestly, I wish. Some people, they don't need this big kick. And
yeah,
I was in zombie mode full time for years.
yeah,
Zombie mode. خلاص. I wouldn't
yeah,
listen.
yeah,
My wife was more aware, like, no, listen, you're not in a good place. Can you do? And I wouldn't listen to her because I'm like, what are you? No, خلاص. No, this
yeah,
is my life,
yeah,
whatever. So she had to thankful for her for dragging me out of this
yeah,
and taking me there. And it was a big slap in the face, a big kick in the butt that
yeah,
really I needed.
yeah,
So everybody's different. I would
yeah,
recommend. I've since recommended, a lot of people went, and some of them have done amazing things since they've been.
yeah,
So it works on, if you're going there hungry, you're tired of your routine, you're just tired of where you are, you're hungry,
yeah,
and you play full on. That's what something he says, like, don't just be on your phone or
yeah,
whatever. Like, if you, the more you put in, the more you get out. I know it's a cliche, but
yeah,
it's there. But how do you make that leap, or why did I need to go
yeah.
there? And like I said, I was in total zombie mode before.
Yeah, yeah.
I
No,
was in total zombie
I think that's a key point that you mentioned there because when you're in that state, it's like you cannot see anything beyond it. And sometimes what happens is when you're placed in a situation or your experience with Tony Robbins' event was it's like I think you can describe it like that. It's like you're able to see for the first time. I don't know if it makes sense, but it's like you look at your life and then you're like, oh my God, where have I been all those years? To now be able to see this is kind of I think kind of the shift. Yeah,
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 absolutely. And Anna, when my wife asked me at the end of it,
yeah,
she's like, "What do you think?" And I
yeah,
looked at her and I told her, it was after like an intense,
yeah,
session of crying and writing
yeah,
and hugging and whatever with
yeah,
strangers. I
yeah,
told her I told her these words. I told her my brain is back.
yeah,
And it was such a big moment for us. And like,
yeah,
wow, finally, I'm
yeah,
awake. I'm
yeah. It's
awake and I'm energetic,
exactly.
and I
Yeah,
see the good in things,
yeah,
more than seeing the bad things. Right
yeah,
now, I have three young children,
yeah,
and yani, sometimes like, oh my God, I can't get any peace and quiet. I can't do any of my morning stuff. Some of them get up early and on top of me, and I could easily fall into that rabbit hole of just like,
yeah, yeah,
man, خلاص, they're the excuse that I'm not, focused or whatever.
yeah,
But when you get your mind awakened by things like that kind of experience, you see things positive. You become grateful, and
yeah,
gratefulness becomes your central tool when you
yeah,
get out of it. So
yeah,
my last thing I would say is gratefulness. Think hard about what you're grateful for. Not just say, "Well, Anna, my health is great. My parents are alive. Yay." No, no,
yeah,
no, no. Like, dig deep. Like, I have hot water.
yeah,
I have clean clothes. Like, my teeth don't hurt. That's amazing. I don't need a dentist visit. I'm not
yeah,
balding. I have a list of
yeah,
things that I'm grateful for. And when you start off your day with those,
yeah.
you can really do a lot more.
Yeah, no, no, you're so spot on that. Okay, awesome. So again, thank you so much, Imad. And for people to connect with you, where should they find you?
Well, they can message me on Instagram. Imad Shawa. I'm Imad Shawa everywhere.
Okay.
Instagram, Twitter, Clubhouse, Facebook, LinkedIn. Imad Shawa, IMAD SHAWA. It's imad@mlabbas.com if you want to reach out by email. Yeah, follow me.
So thank you again, and I hope you all have an amazing, awesome rest of your day.